You are now entering the Thick Goddess Energy Morning Show. We in the building. High priestess in the building, didn't let my fears kill me. Transmuted my pain in that cleanse in the rain. Found out I was working and I conquered my demons. I accepted my purpose and the goddess I became. But we're not really live. Good morning, you guys. This is Thick Goddess Energy Show. I am your host, Divine Moon Goddess. I have my co-host here, Oracle Empress, and our special guest, Rizzle Universe, is joining us today. We're going to be talking about cancer, the reality of it, being a cancer survivor himself, and the loss behind cancer as well. So as you know, the notifications are kind of going out for a moment. I'll do like the first spin of this is brought to you by Divine Moon Goddess Healers and Readings.com. Where your questions are answered. And remember, you guys, well, actually, we're into the new year now. So technically, we are in 2022 now. Even though we're pre-filming this, technically this airs in 2022. So happy New Year, you guys.
Wow, happy New Year.
Yeah.
We have to say that we're already in the future over here. Okay. Let's get it. So before we get into, I do want to, of course, jump into your story. And I was looking at a couple of these stats. We know cancer can hit so many different places of the body. I mean, it literally, there's so many different organs, glands. I mean, we could be here forever talking about how many different places, right? We've actually done several different fundraisers for, I mean, I think 5 or 6 different types of cancer alone. So let's just jump into it. Let's talk about it. Not one, you're a survivor, but you've also lost quite a few family behind cancer. So
Yeah. I lost my mom, my aunts, uncles, all to a form of cancer. Most of the women in my family had breast cancer. A few had, prostate cancer, other forms of cancer. I myself was diagnosed with stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a form of cancer.
right.
That was in 2001. I'll never forget that year.
Wow.
It was the summer of 2001. I actually remember, how it played out because I remember I was getting treatment when the towers was hit and fell. So
Right.
that's a memory that I'll never forget.
Can't forget that. Something of that nature. So what's going through your mind when you get your results when when the doctor's telling kind of like this, I don't know if I'm going to breathe in this moment, right?
Right. When they told me, I was shocked because I was doing a job and I had to get a physical in order to go back to work because I had to use a respirator. So they did a X-ray of my chest and it took longer than expected, and I was in there kind of like, what's taking so long? So he came back and said, well, you need to get checked out. We found a mass in your chest. So I kind of like, what you mean a mass? And he showed it to me. And I was like, what is that? It was like a big white cloud the size of a grapefruit. So he showed it to me. He said, well, you need to go to the hospital and get admitted the next day. So I had to go home and I had to explain to my sister what was going on. And, my mother had passed away from cancer. That was the first thing that popped in their head, that
Right.
there might not be no cure for me.
Right.
So we had to go through the treatment process, and it was rough. It was very rough going through that treatment process. Chemo is no joke.
Right. I was going to ask you, what did you choose to do? What was your process?
I did chemo and radiation. I guess it was by me being in stage 3, almost in stage 4, because I had to get a bone marrow done to see if I was in stage 4 or not.
Yeah.
But I had to do chemo, 6 months of chemo, and I did 6 months of radiation, which was rough as well. But after my chemo, I ended up going back to work while I was getting my radiation.
Oh, wow.
So it drained me. Radiation it drains you. You have no energy.
Right.
Chemo is worse than that. You have no appetite. You lose weight. You lose your hair. You lose the pigment in your skin.
Because that's kind of part of being sick, right? The world doesn't stop. Your bills don't stop.
No.
Right. Yeah, the bills keep going.
Sick, you might live, you might die, but guess what? You still owe until while you're here.
Yeah, you still
When
have to
you're
do something.
sick, it's like, what do? You know, what do you have to keep going. I can't
Yeah.
imagine waking up and just having to deal with that and be at work and show your face and
Right. And push.
Mhm.
I've been on the other end of watching it as a certified medical assistant in working with geriatrics, which is seniors, and the population of having to go through different types of watching some of the patients. It is harsh. I can't imagine being in your seat and actually doing um and like, yes, you have to get up and still, because the whole thing of you getting the treatment is because you want to live, right? Like that is, I want to live. I'm fighting to live, and um, so you, it's like basically fighting the germs in your body with toxic energy. Basically, it's like this toxic energy, and the chemical part of it, right? Chemo is the chemical side of it, actually pushing the chemicals within your body to kind of offset and fight the disease. If
Right.
you know, I don't want to get too into terms and labels and shit like that, but that's probably like the basis of it if we're looking at it, which is harsh.
Yes, it is. It kind of, hey, believe it or not, I wanted to give up. It was days that I went to get my treatment, and my nephew went with me, and I walked in there because they have it set up in the lounge and the TVs and everything. You get plugged up. This particular day, I walked in there. It was just beating me up so bad. I wanted to give up. I turned around, walked out. I got to the door, and something just stopped me, and I just went back and just continue on with my treatments. But it was plenty of those days where you just don't, you want to give up because it breaks you down physically and mentally, and that's what a lot of people don't know about the chemo. It breaks you down mentally as well.
Right. Right. I was gonna say on that side of it, because I think that's a big part of it, is the mental strain when you're going through any type of treatment plan, recovery, you're exhausted already. That sets in the tired, the loss you've already gone through, and now you're trying to just keep it together in the
Right,
mind frame.
right.
How do you do that?
I'm,
What
I'm,
got you through?
it was hard. It was a rough battle. I was trying to, I didn't really have the support that I wanted, that I felt like I should have had. So it was all my will. My will kept me going. I said I was going to beat this, and I just kept that mindset that I'm going to keep pushing no matter what the results was. I didn't think negative about it. I just went on with the treatments. I kept going, did what the doctors told me to do, even though I had days where I didn't want to get the treatment. Weeks I couldn't eat because of the treatment. Chemo makes you swell up like a mushroom or a balloon or something. You get real puffy. You can't wear certain clothes anymore. It messes with you.
Right. Now, you were pretty young.
Yeah, I was 21 when
Yeah.
I got diagnosed.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's pretty rough. Now, did you fluctuate in your weight?
Yeah, I was down to my like 120 at that time. I was, average maybe 140, 150. I lost a lot of weight. It didn't really make my skin pigment mess up as bad as other people I've seen.
Right.
And it made me dehydrated a lot. I had to come get fluids all the time. They had to come put the port in because I had the port in my arm.
Right.
So I had to get fluids every week because I couldn't eat.
Right. Right.
I don't know how spiritual you were before you found out. I mean, because you were so young, you know what I mean?
Right.
But did you have a moment of being angry and feeling like you didn't believe, or you didn't angry, just that spirit, creator, God, whoever it is that you believed in, that this happened to you at 21? And
I questioned it. I questioned it. I said, why me? And now that I look back on it, it kind of makes me think it happened to me because I have to speak for my family members that wasn't able to get this experience. I'm doing it for them. And I kind of feel like now that's the reason why I went through all that. At that time, I was just like, why me? is it over for me? I'm young. I got so much I want to do.
Right.
And it was just so many questions, but I didn't want to give up. And that was never in my mind of giving up.
Right.
Even though at one particular time I did, I thought about it. It was just that point. You tired of chemo so much. And, I'm sitting in this chair watching these 8 bags being pumped into my system one by one. You're in the chair for 8-9 hours.
Right.
And, you just say, I'm tired of it. I'm ready.
Right.
I can't go no more.
Right. And then boom. One of the things is about how long did you have to go through? How long until they were like, you're in remission? Because I know they use words like that, like
it was maybe like a year and a half after my last radiation treatment. I did 6 months of chemo, 6 months of radiation, and maybe 6 more months they monitored me, and then it's okay, you're in remission.
Nice.
So I went back. I had to go a follow-up after that for maybe 2 years. And after that 2 years, they said, well, I don't need for you to come back because we can't find any traces of it.
Right. Wow. Such a blessing to not have, like, it's like, okay. Because there's a fear after that.
Yeah. Because they say, well, it's a possibility it can come back. And that's what they tell you. It could come back. And, my sister, we had, people in our family and other friends that had a form of this cancer and it came back on them. So when they tell me that, that's kind of in the back of your mind. But I say, well, if it do, it do,
Right. Did you have any, like, your belief system? Did you have a belief system at that time? Did you believe? Were you religious at all, or did you have that belief system?
I was kind of in a religious background, but I wasn't attending. I just had the background from my family, and that was it. And I had some people come in that went to church and they put the Bibles in and they prayed with me. But me myself, I didn't really attend any religion at that time.
Right. Did you find yourself praying to God during, like, God, if you just give me one more chance, God, if you just, I mean, we've all done it. We've all just
give me a chance to make this work. Let me beat this cancer, and I'll do better, or I'll fulfill my purpose.
Right. Just give me this chance, and
get me through this shit.
So it's rough. I can't, like I said, I can't imagine it. So, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but just moving forward on, because you've lost so many people, now the shift for you, the shift of now I'm going to stand and be this advocate. What is pushing you to do that? What is pushing you to be like, what, I need to use my voice and bring some light or shed some light to this?
Just my will to do by my mom. My mom had passed when I was 2 from cancer. So that was, that's kind of still having an effect on me. And now that I'm spiritual, I know the power of being, the divine energy. So I just want to tap in and do something for her, because I never had a conversation with her. I don't have any memories of her, just pictures. And when I found out that, cancer had took her life and my other aunt's life, I said, well, I got to do something for them by me being a survivor for them, speak out for them, educate people on the side effects of the chemo, the treatment, the cancer, ways that you can treat yourself to prevent it, and how to check yourself for cancer.
Right.
Do you feel like, as a minority, I know even for my family, I feel like as a minority, I don't feel like either we don't have the correct access to healthcare, or we're not as informed about certain things, whether it be from our doctors or our practitioners. Do you feel like being a minority and stepping into that, like, was it kind of brand new for you? Did you not, because of course, like you said, you just kind of were going in and got kind of checked, and then it was like, oh, you have this thing. And it's like, I just don't think, as minorities, I don't feel like we have the correct access to healthcare. Right. And I feel like when something does happen, it's always, can I afford this? Right. It's like, well, it's kind of like the dog that's sick. It's like, can you afford to fix it, or do you put it to sleep? It's like, what do? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, at that time, I didn't have any insurance. I was working, and then my insurance didn't kick in. So I was just fortunate they went on and just treated me anyway.
Right,
So,
right,
but
right.
you know, my father grew up as putting us on herbs. We grew up around herbs, teas and herbs. I was treated with herbs, you know, with chicken pox. He always did herbs with us. So as we got older, we just started taking what he taught us and just taking it further. So we figured out ways and doing our research on what can heal the body and what can raise your pH level so these diseases won't live in your body. So we,
Right,
you know, just learning about different herbs and teas, and we, you know, I still drink teas to this day, and it helps out a lot.
right,
Even,
right,
you know, by not being able to afford healthcare, you really want to learn about herbs.
right. Plant medicine,
Mhm.
like real shit.
Yeah,
I think I think it's crazy because I think sometimes, like, I know your dad probably used to do some shit. He used to be like, man, this old man with this with these home remedies and shit. But then when something like this happens, it's like, oh shit. Like now I see why. I see
right,
why he's into this. Now this is like, okay, let me get on top of it. Let
right.
me do it.
Let me take it a step further. You know, I seen him. He used to bring home big roots of uh dirt. And I was like, man, what is that? He said, wash it off, and you know, he'll wash it off. And this the best part of the herb. He always said, and
Right,
he's
right.
put
The
it in a
root.
big pot, and we'll smell it. Sometimes we wouldn't drink it as kids. He'll just let us put it in the air, and we'll smell it.
Right.
So as we got older, you know, we just started drinking it. But the root, he's always to bring home the root, and I was like, what is that? He said, man, that's the best part of the tea.
Right, right, right. The root is even like I'm really new into herbs within the last 3 years. I think 2019 is when me and my daughter started to look into different herbs and things like that. And it just blew my mind of how many ones, and they talk about the root, not even the leaves. Like everyone
Right,
focuses on the leaves, but a lot of it is like the root of it. And even like looking at ginger and these different, detox waters that you can do for yourself. But I do believe we don't have this information. No, like no one I knew, we had people who everyone had Kool-Aid.
right.
Everybody had Kool-Aid, but nobody had ginger lemon fucking water,
No,
like no
no,
one had that shit in their damn fridge. That wasn't a
no.
thing, you know. I do
Right.
think we lack that part of, and I think it's because it was taken. And let's be real, I feel like it was because it was stripped. That
It
part
was.
of backgrounds was stripped
It
away.
was. It was. I read an article and it said that they stripped the herbs from us, and now they're using it. We have to call it a dietary supplement. So
Mhm.
Right.
you know, so people don't know. They think okay, it's just something for their weight. When they say dietary supplement, they think it's for their weight.
Mhm.
But these herbs is for
Right.
your health. They'll boost your
Right.
immune system.
Right.
But you know,
Right.
there's a book that people might want to check out. It's called Back to Eating. It's a herb book.
Back
Back
to
to
eating.
Eating. It has all the herbs on there, every remedy from A to Z, and every treatment in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I've gotten into a lot of different herbs in my herbal tea. And I tell people I have not been sick, like really sick since January of 2020. And that was a few months after my last flu shot at work when I was still working in the clinic. And January 2020 was the last time I got the flu. And I haven't been sick since. I
Right. They
really feel
work.
like we need to like really open our eyes to something. So, if you wanted to tell someone, what are some things that some people can just start? We're talking about teas and just kind of getting your information about tea and stuff, but what else can people do? Like,
As far as like tea, get some melon. Melon is good for your lungs, your respiratory system. Chamomile, also you combine those two together. But if you're not really into the teas, you gotta figure out how to eat some good fruit that can raise your pH level. Cancer can't live in a high pH body, and that's
mm,
one thing they don't tell you. They get your pH level down, and that's how we are accessible to all these diseases. So when you raise your pH level by fruits or getting some good pH water, that'll keep that disease from getting into your system.
right, right. I do believe in the water because I drink a particular spring water. I won't drink other waters because of how acidy, how many chemicals are in the water, especially your tap water. Some of
Yeah,
these states, y'all, woo,
yeah, they're acidic, big time.
look at look at your tap water. Um, far as like What's next for you far as bringing this information out, and what's next for you far as like being bringing your voice out besides like something like this? But what else are you going to be doing to like get the information out
I
there?
thought about going back to the hospitals, and like when I was telling you, when I left Virginia, they wanted me to come do this, speak to the people
Right.
that was going through the treatment before I moved. So I tried to do it before COVID had hit, but that shut
Mhm.
everything down. So I'm going
Right.
to try to do it again. Maybe even if it's a virtual way, to
Right.
encourage people that don't give up on it just because you say I got cancer or your loved ones have cancer. There's still a way.
Right.
There's still hope. It can be beat. So
Right.
I'm going to try to do that. Maybe by virtual or any other way, going there physically. Probably won't because of what's going on, but I'm going to try to get more people aware of the cancer.
Right. Right.
What did you?
Um,
What did you? I don't want to say what was your focus, but what was kind of the thing for you that kept you out of that victim mentality or that mentality of poor me
For
throughout
me,
the year?
Poor me. Why? Well, he did do the why me for a while. He
But
did.
yeah,
the giving up and the poor me and the like I just throw my
I
hands up.
I just went with it. It might have been just my support that I had. They was around. And, I had nurses at the hospital. They used to come around, talk to me and give me encouragement. At one point, I did say, "Why me?" But after a while, I just went with it and said, "Okay, I'm gonna beat this thing." So I
Right.
just had that mindset, and I didn't give up. And
Survival
when I
mode.
went back to
And
work, and I had to explain to my boss what was going on, and he gave me so much encouragement in front of everybody. It was shocking to me. He was like, "Man, this guy's out here every day
wow.
showing up on time at work, and he's going through cancer, and you guys can't be here."
Mhm.
And it's like, "Man, I'm proud of you,
Right.
man. Keep it up. I'm commend you for doing that." So I said, "Okay, I can do this. I'm gonna keep going." Even though it's my days where I didn't want to go or be there because of the radiation, but I made it through it.
Right. I have to commend you because it is not easy
No,
to get up to just deal and then go to work, do everything and not complain. You're not really complaining. You're just kind of silently fighting the
yeah,
battle, right?
yeah, yeah. That's what I was doing. The silently fighting the battle. I didn't complain. I just went with it. They knew my condition and they wouldn't let me do too much, but
Right.
I didn't go there, complaining about anything.
Right. One thing I was gonna say is far as the support system, like I know you said, of course, it wasn't as what you would have liked it to be. So when people are going through this with their family, what can they really do to really be that support for their people, for their
You gotta
family?
be there. You gotta be there to talk to them because once they start going through that chemo treatment, their self esteem is gonna go down. So you got to keep their self esteem up. Give them encouragement, air, anything, any kind of activities. Don't make them feel like okay they're dying or this is it for them. Treat them as if nothing is going on because that helps keep the body uplifted, and
Right,
that'll help the process go a lot better.
right. I think it's kind of hard, though, I will tell you, on the family side, to just act like nothing when they see you deteriorating. Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
When I was in the hospital, my aunt say, well, they didn't say it to me, but my sister and them told me, yeah, they say he looked bad. He losing a lot of weight.
right,
Mm.
They didn't say that to me though, but I didn't. When she told me, I didn't even think about it. I just said, okay, I'm gonna just keep going. I'm gonna just do these treatments that
right,
the doctor say we're gonna do, and we're gonna take it one day at a time.
right, right, right.
They
I think
definitely definitely need some sort of encouragement, to keep going. Don't leave them alone. You always want
right,
to be there to have some kind of interaction.
right. So that they're not alone. Like,
Right, right. Because your mind can easily drift off, and you'll have those thoughts. Okay, this is it. I want to give up.
right,
So
right.
chemo would do that to you.
Oh, yeah. It's a rough battle. Like I said, I've seen a lot of patients and I've seen a lot of them try to Some of them, because I've worked with the elderly seniors, you'll see the spouse trying their best to help them, or some of them it'll be their children that are trying to help them. That it's hard. It takes a
Right.
toll, I think, on especially the family that are involved, the family that are encouraged. I think as a family, you just got to try to find a outlet, a release system, some type of belief system also. Because I don't think if you don't have a belief system, I think that makes it even worse because the fears of it all kind of come in. What's next? And especially like in your family where multiple people have passed
Right.
on before you, and now it's like now we're staring at this again. Are we going to lose him? And I think that's a huge thing too.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they was looking at it like I'm the youngest, so
Yeah.
they say, when it hit me, it was a big shock for them. They didn't even know. They still didn't know how I got it or where it came from, because the first thing we thought was, did I get it from my mom, some
Right.
sort of way? But the doctor said no, that there was no traces of it. It was
Right.
definitely a big shock for everybody.
Right. I was wondering, because I kind of look at health a little bit differently now in my path, and a lot of things that I see that hit, especially through the family. I feel like, when we talk about generational curses, generational kind of DNA um, karma that goes through the family, our ancestral karma. Do you feel like any of that had any ties to it, and then why you're still standing? Like,
I don't think it's the DNA. A lot of people think that it could be passed on from
hmm
from person to person. A lot of cancers comes from the food we eat,
right, right.
and a lot of the cookware. And by me being a survivor, I started just looking back on everything. How did I get it, or where did it come from? So I started questioning these things, and I believe it could come from the cheap pots you get in the grocery stores.
Yeah.
That stuff has cancer in that paint, so you can get it
Mhm.
in your food, and
Right,
there's multiple ways you can get it. I don't think you're gonna get it from by inherited from your ancestors or your loved ones.
right, right. Yeah, there's it's just so much. Everything has something in it.
Yeah,
Um, on some level, some shape, way, or form, to our hair products, to our shampoos, to everything. I
right.
just always ask because it's interesting to see if there's any correlation in, but if you don't feel it is, then you
No,
just do
and I
it.
also found out, doing more research, I was like, so how do I used to wonder how my mom and her sisters caught cancer, and
Right.
I found out that back in those days, that Johnson and Johnson, those bras had the metal up underneath them, which
hmm
caused breast cancer.
Oh
So
wow.
you have to be careful with the bras that women was wearing back then. That caused a lot of cancer. So I was like, and maybe it wasn't, it's not hereditary. It's the products that we wear
Right,
that
right.
can get in your blood system that can cause it.
Well, shit, they still got metal. Wait a minute.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that metal.
Wait a minute. I need to go check all my tags now.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that it's sad that that's like I know we're joking, and it is definitely not a joking matter. It's definitely serious. I think you need to keep some type of laughter in your life if
right.
you're going through it. Because we have had so many people that just have linked to someone who's had some type of form of cancer, whether it be
hmm
lungs, breasts, ovaries, stuff like that. It's definitely out there. It definitely can. I don't know if you feel like, because I know some people ask like, why does this person pass and this person doesn't, right? And you seem to go into fighter mode. Like that was like not, did you go, were you still afraid? Or were you just in, I'm gonna beat it? Like you just knew I'm gonna beat this.
After a while, I just knew I was going to beat it. The fear was gone. Once I got to my point where they said it started shrinking, oh, I knew I had it. I said I got this now. So I just kept
Right.
on pushing. I kept going with the treatments, and then every time I went back, they kept giving me good reports. It kept shrinking and shrinking, and then I got to
Right.
the point where they said, okay, it's small enough. We could just do the radiation. I said, okay, we got it, man. We on the home stretch. So I had 6 more months of that, and I remember that last day I went in there and they did an X-ray and they pulled the port out of my arm.
Right.
Do you
Nice.
feel like that had a lot to do with your survival?
With my will,
Your will and your ability to maintain that kind of positive outlook on it and not
I
go
believe,
into
I
that
believe so. I
fear
believe
mode.
you have to have a strong will for that, because
Right.
that chemical mixture in those bags will it breaks you down to the point where as soon as you start having doubt, it's just gonna take over you.
Mhm.
Right.
That chemo is strong. I'm trying to tell people I won't even do it again.
Right. Right. So if you had to go through it a second time, you'd like, hell
I
no.
won't do chemo. No.
Yeah. I do think like your will is everything, and the fear. Once that fear kicks in, I think a lot of people end up getting consumed by the fear of what's going on.
Right.
But when you go into that full fighter, I'm fighting this. Your energy is mixing with everything that you got going on. Whoever's assisting you, right? And
Right.
you're healing your own self. I do feel like we're healers of our own self in so many ways. So I feel like you just going into that mode is huge. That was
Yeah, because
huge for you.
I
That was a
didn't give
game
up.
changer.
I wanted to work. I wanted to keep living my life. I wanted to just be normal. I
Right.
didn't want nobody to treat me any different. Even
Mhm.
though I was going through that, I still hung out with my brothers, my cousins. We still went out and did everything. You know, even though I had my days where it really broke me down and I couldn't eat. But when I started to feel better, I was out and about. I didn't mope. I was just, I just got to stay positive, because your energy is the key. Once you have doubt, it's going to take over you. And cancer is one of the fastest growing cells in the world. It grows at a rapid rate. It takes over your body so quick. So
Right.
you have to be on top of it.
Right. So you didn't have any actual surgery where they went in. So you did the radiation and
No, I
chemo.
had surgery.
You did have
I had
surgery also?
they did a biopsy in my chest, and they
Okay.
stuck a needle in there to try to get a sample the first time, but it wasn't enough. So they had to cut me open to get a bigger piece of the sample to find out what kind of cancer it was. And
Hmm.
then they did the port for my treatment, which
Right.
went in my arm and went to an artery in your heart.
Right. Right. Yeah, I've seen them ports. Some ports are they're not in the most comfortable places either.
No, they I had a choice to either put it in my arm or my chest. I said I just put it in my arm. I didn't want that big thing in my chest like that.
Yeah, very uncomfortable. Like
Yeah.
Jesus. Um, I lost my train of thought. What was I about to say? About to say something. Lost my train of thought. I don't know. I don't know either.
But this is another thing. They told me how to check yourself. You know, check your lymph nodes. They
Mm-hmm.
up under your arms. If there's swelling, up under your
Mm-hmm.
neck, right here in your neck, you check those areas. Up under your armpits.
Right.
I think around your groin areas, anywhere those areas, if they swell up, and in your chest, that's a form of cancer. And symptoms that I had was night sweats. I had a
Mm,
fever, like I was cold, like I was getting a cold, chills all the time, and no
right.
appetite.
Right. And it's like simple things like that to just be aware of.
Yeah, because I
Um,
thought it was just a common cold, and
mhm.
I'm preparing myself to go back to work. I said, I'm gonna beat this cold and go back to work. So I had to get this test, and they said, no, this is something serious. I said, man, it felt like a cold, but you
Right.
gotta know these symptoms.
Right. And that just comes into knowing your body, getting used to your body,
Right.
knowing what your normal is. But that goes with the lack of education. We are not taught that. We
No,
are not
no.
taught to check ourselves. We are not taught to get familiar with even that we have organs. You know what I mean? Like all of this
Yeah,
concept of this, right?
right. I tell people, I say, man, your body talks to you. Your body just don't talk to you when you got to put some food in your belly.
Right.
You know, it's other ways it communicates with you. When you need water, your skin. That's why you get pimples. Your skin will
Right.
show you that you need to dehydrate yourself.
Right.
So we got to pay attention to what our body is telling us, other than we're hungry.
Exactly. Exactly. But that definitely pushing more education, just to get that knowledge and be able to teach the children from small, you know, to look at
Right.
themselves, to notice what is normal, what doesn't feel normal, that water is essential. Like it shouldn't be all damn drinks, like what are I don't know what the kids drink these days. If it's
I
still,
see.
is it high C?
Yeah,
The little
Capri
fruit
Sun.
drinks, the Capri Suns and fruit drinks, that it's not just that and sucking down, tons of soda and shit, which are all bad, all
Yeah,
bad. I very rarely drink any soda anymore these days just because horrible. There is no good soda, you guys. There's no, I don't care if it says diet, Coke Zero, there's no good soda. As I do
you
believe,
know,
unfortunately, our food is horrible. It is. It
yeah.
really is.
Another thing I know I started to do going through this process, I started to look at the ingredients on
Right.
things because a
Right.
lot of those ingredients are cancerous.
They're all types of chemicals. All
Right,
types of chemicals. You can't even pronounce half the shit
right,
that's in the food.
and that's why they put it on there, is because they know most people they can't pronounce it. But so I look it up. Let the phone tell you what the word is, and then you look up what's in it. Because a lot
Right.
of those ingredients that's in cereal and a lot of
Right.
stuff that we give kids, it causes cancer at an early age, and we wonder why these young kids are getting cancer. It's in the cereal.
Right. Yeah. I do. You got to look at what you're eating. There's a lot of things that I used to eat that I don't eat anymore or
Yeah,
drink anymore. I just don't, because you just think about how it's created, how it's made, all of the extra shit in it, even the stuff from like your side dishes, the
yeah.
side, it's very easy to do instant everything. But if you look at that label, you're going to be like, damn, take the little extra time, to cut the damn vegetables. Even though they say our vegetables are sprayed and shit, and it's kind of hard unless you're growing your own shit, which
Yeah,
that's
you can grow
another
your
thing.
own. My grandma used to have us garden in the garden as a kid. Go out there
Right.
and pick those greens and collards and bring them in. We rarely went to the store to get anything, maybe just bread or milk.
Mhm.
Right. I want a garden. That's my next thing. My next thing is I want my own garden. I want my
Yeah,
own fruits and vegetables. I do.
yeah,
That's my
I want
next.
to start me another garden because I want to
Mhm.
go back to that and get my own thing, my own food, and I know what's in it. It ain't sprayed with no pesticides or no
Right.
other chemicals in it,
Right.
hormones and whatever.
Right.
But those things affects the body, and they make it taste good for us, but it's doing damage to you.
Well, a lot of it too is people have become lazy. And then there will be a lot of people that will argue the fact that, oh, I don't have time. What do you say to that? I don't have time.
You find
I don't have
time. What's more important? I
Mhm.
mean, you don't have any time. Cancer don't have any time. That sucker gonna grow.
Mhm.
So you better get on top of it. Cancer ain't gonna wait for nobody.
right.
Right?
Right.
Why you procrastinating? It's growing at a fast rate. It shocked me that I was in stage 3 at
Right.
that far in there, and I was almost in 4. It was maybe a week. If I would have waited a week, I probably would have been in stage 4.
Wow.
So you don't want
Definitely
to
a
play around
different,
talking about you don't have any time.
right.
Find time. Check yourself out and watch what you're putting in your body, and maybe raise your pH level, and that'll reduce the risk of cancer and any other diseases.
Mhm. I
Oh
know
yeah.
you found out by them noticing the mass, but I know a few people close to me that have passed from cancer, and I think sometimes when we do find something off, like you said, your body speaks to you, and we're like, something's off, something's off. But a lot of times, I don't feel like we're taken seriously,
Right.
or
Right.
nobody is wanting to take the time. And then it makes us give up, right? It's like, oh, well, the doctor said it should go away on its own. Or,
Right.
like I know I've had somebody who had skin cancer, and it was from, like the mole. And they're like, oh, the doctor, doesn't think it's anything unless it starts to get bigger or it gets raised. And then
Right.
years later, they find out they have skin cancer. My grandpa had cancer, and I'm not even exactly sure what it was, because by the time he found out, it was like just spread. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I
It was
mean?
too late.
Yeah, and he was diagnosed on my birthday, July 7th, and he had died by September 14th, I think was the date.
Right.
And he originally started with feeling like his arches were falling, his bones were hurting, his feet
Yeah.
were hurting, legs were hurting. And then
Right.
within a month, so I don't, and he had been trying to get help for this, and they had been giving him little things to put in his shoes, and then they told him it was his weight, and then they told
Right.
him his age, and so I think sometimes we go and we're not taken seriously, and we know something is off, but somebody's like, it'll go away, it'll get better, it'll
Right.
it'll fall off on its own, it'll do its own thing. And so what do you say to people, since you've been there and you've probably gotten to know people too? What do you say when you know something is wrong?
I'll say don't listen. I mean, you can listen to the doctor, but you still want to monitor the symptoms, because the symptoms of cancer is still going to be there, and you don't want to know them. Sometimes they may feel like, okay, like in my case, I felt like I had a common cold, and it was in the middle of the summertime. You don't get no cold then, so okay, I'm gonna take some NyQuil or something, and I'll be good the next day. But when it continues on day after day, then
Right.
you want to go get checked out and take it seriously. You don't want to procrastinate on it.
Right. Right. I think a lot of times too, it's when you go in, and then unfortunately with a lot of insurance of what I've seen on my end, just on the healthcare part, is the price tag with the testing. Okay. That's another part that someone has to make the decision. Do I pay my $100 copay for this x-ray or this MRI or this CT scan, or do I go buy my groceries or pay, whatever bills? And I'm not talking about the person who's, splurging money on dumb shit. I'm talking about, the average person who doesn't have a huge savings and is looking at that price tag, because there's been times, and I didn't have cancer, but I had to choose, like, do I get this MRI and pay my $400 copay, or do I keep, paying my bills? And at the time, living paycheck to paycheck, I chose to pay my bills and
Right.
not the $400 price tag and get that MRI,
Well, I'll
and I
say
think
that you can just go, learn how to check yourself. If you can't go to the hospital, that comes with educating yourself on your body, taking time out to analyze your body, learn your body. And then you'll be able to make a decision on and study the symptoms of these diseases. If you feel bad and you have a continuation of something like that, you want to do some more research on it.
Right. Yeah. And there's a lot of different levels to it. I definitely feel like there's a lot of different levels to it of just, because unfortunately the healthcare system is not the best,
No.
after the fact, it's like, okay, you're stage 3. Now let's try to help you. But before that, of trying to prevent it, and what Western medicine calls preventative medicine, I have an issue. That's why I left. I have an issue of what they consider preventative medicine. Because for me, preventative medicine is starting to tell people what they can do to take care of themselves, not just take tests, not just get x-rays, not just, it's what can I do before the fact.
It's like preventative education, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because I've never even heard of checking yourself for the lymph nodes.
Yeah,
as a woman, I've heard of yourself doing your breast exam, but I've never heard of being able to like check anything else unless you end up with a big old bulge coming out of your skin and you're like, wait, that wasn't there yesterday. But I don't think I've ever heard of checking.
I did that and all. I had the side that the mask was on. I used to be able to squeeze my chest and pus was coming out. So I just started feeling on myself to figure out, is it all over? And then I started noticing, okay, it's under my arm. This lymph node swole.
Right.
But I think I had some great doctors. Dr. Lee was a good doctor, and his assistants. They were some young doctors, but they helped me out. They gave me some information that people they normally don't give you. They're the ones that told me how to check myself.
Right.
And
where's that doctor located in case somebody is in that area? Where is that doctor? Where was that doctor at?
That was in Virginia Beach.
Okay. Don't know if he's still practicing, but
He's still there, Dr. Michael Lee.
He's still there.
He's
Okay.
a good doctor. That's another thing. You want to find you a good doctor. If you get to that point, make sure they care. They're not there just to get a paycheck. You want to find somebody that's there to try to help you get better, and that's going to give you some motivation, not just there to just get to file your insurance.
Right. I think making sure you have a good facility or even your primary care, because I did a lot of patient education. Like the doctor would go in, the doctor would say everything, go over all the results and stuff with patients, and then I would go in and reiterate what he said, basically, and make sure like, did you get everything? Do you have any questions? And some people just say yes. Some people just say yes. And I would say, don't be afraid to ask questions if you have no clue.
Right. You got to ask questions. I ask questions. My dad used to tell me I asked too many questions.
But that's a good thing.
It got to the point I started asking questions. What's this for? How I know, where did it come from, Doc? That was my first thing I asked him. How did I get it? He was like, well, so did I get it? Did I inherit it? I don't know. We'll look into it, is what he told me.
Right.
You guys make sure you ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. They used to tell us in school that the dumbest question is the one you don't ask.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But you'll be surprised at how many people just nod yes and that's it. They nod yes and then they're really confused. And so I would say definitely stop not asking questions. A lot of you go in there, you speak to your doctor, the doctor's rushing you. No, I still have questions,
Right. Take your notepad, write your questions down before you go. Be prepared. Because you want to know, it's going to be more than one question. So make sure you write them down. And, when you go, you'll be prepared to get the information you need.
Right. I think there's a catch-22, because once you start telling people to Google everybody's WebMD, and everyone now has all types of seriously illnesses going on. That was the downfall of working in the clinic, was then everyone has an illness. Everyone is calling because they WebMD'd something, right? I do feel like getting some type of education in place to where we are at least the basics knowledgeable about our bodies and our systems. You don't got to go to like doctor level shit, right? But at least the basics of your body and what your organs do and what they, what are they for? I think that should be something that we don't even teach that really. Like I'm trying to think even in grade school,
that book I told you
back then.
Yeah, that book, the Back to Eden book, it tells you everything. You'll be surprised from menstrual cycle to chronic pain. There's a way, there's a natural herb and a treatment for it.
Oh yeah, there is.
I use the water treatment. I was reading that book and I figured out how to, they back in the day they used to do water treatments for nausea or digestive problems. So I started reading. I said, okay, that water is powerful. So, I got in the shower one day. I wasn't feeling right. And the water, stayed in there, a nice warm shower. And I felt good after I got it. I said, that water treatment works. So, water is the key to a lot of healing. And they don't tell us that.
No.
But definitely, if you got a chance, definitely get that book. It got a lot of good information in there on healing yourself naturally.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to look into it myself, because I've just in this past couple of years of really getting into more of the holistic healing, the healing with plants and just teas, and even mixing it in food, looking to mix in food and stuff like that, just to eat better and eat healthier. Because it's just, if we don't change this shit, it just doesn't change. No. Every generation just gets worse and worse and worse if we don't try to do something or do our part, right?
Right. A good herb is to get for healing is chickweed. It heals anything it touches from the inside out. And that's what my dad used to put on me when I had chicken pox. I don't have any chicken pox marks.
Oh, wow.
I had it twice.
I had chicken pox when I was little. We had it. I don't really remember so little. I don't really remember it at all. I think our generations were the last ones with chicken pox.
We was the last ones to get chicken pox. You don't even hear about chicken pox anymore.
The rest of them don't know what that itch feels like.
Yeah, because when my kids ended up getting the vaccine, I'm like, a vaccine for the chicken pox?
Right.
Like, my mom used to take us to the neighbor's house to get the chicken pox.
Yeah, like,
Like,
That was weird because I was a teenage mom. So when I went in there, it was like a chicken pox, and it was looking like, so you gonna inject her with that shit? Because I remember I had that shit. I was kind of clueless as to, wait, what are we doing right now? Like, what are we injecting? And see, I used to be, and this is how you change. Different experiences will change you. Because I actually used to be the parent, used to get mad at people who were like, no vaccines. But now I understand it. Now I understand why people are just like, no, and they choose not to vaccinate their child, because we actually, if you stick to your body and Mother Nature, the stuff that we have, you actually can beat a lot of this shit that's out there versus pumping your body up with it and building this immunity that you actually already have. I think we kind of miss that part.
Yeah,
not to say everyone's the same, on the health, immune systems and all that are different, but we know that there's key ingredients that can boost your immune system. What does everyone do when they get sick? Everybody's pumping vitamin C, right? And everybody thinks oranges, but it's like there's so many other foods that are higher in vitamin C than oranges.
Right.
What is sold on TV? Oh, orange juice. But you can drink lemons, or you can get you some pineapple juice, way higher in vitamin C than oranges. But no one's going to tell you that.
That too. Like, you get this thing where they're like, drink pineapple juice, drink orange juice. But the things that we're buying out of the grocery store, it's not juice, it's fucking sugar.
No. And I'm talking about getting the plant.
Corn syrup.
Yeah, I'm talking about getting the plant and getting the juice from the fruit.
Oh yeah, naturally. Yeah, that's the best way.
It's like nobody.
Yourself.
I have cranberry juice, and it's like, that is sugar.
Right.
That is sugar. Like, apple juice. Oh, that's sugar.
The claws on the back, concentrated from.
And when I've tried to eat healthier and eat better, is I would go to the grocery store and I would see something and it would say natural or fruit juice added or whatever, and so you think it's better,
right?
And you don't know that you're just drinking
corn syrup.
Right. Because you think like, and it's sad. There's actually a documentary, and I wish I could remember the documentary that I watched, that when the very fad of losing weight came in, we're in a capitalist society. I mean, you just got to remember that when that came in, that's where all of the healthy fruit drinks came into, and they're just selling the idea. There's nothing healthy about it. Absolutely nothing healthy, no matter how much they slap these organic and all natural signs. The second you look at the true ingredients, you're like, wait a minute. Why doesn't it just say apples and water?
Right.
Yeah.
That's why you say I gotta look it up. You gotta look up what the ingredients is. When we was kids, we used to read the back of the cereal box. Now I turn it to the side and I look at the ingredients, and that's what I read on the cans and everything.
Like, let me see what's the long list.
Yeah.
Over here.
What's that big word I can't pronounce?
Right, and it's because of that part of it. It's like, well, and then the people who make it will say, oh, it's the preservatives we have to put in it to make it. In the same documentary, I'm gonna try to look for it so I can post it in the group. Because they talked about how long this stuff sits on a shelf before it even gets to the grocery store. So it's probably in a warehouse like a year before it even gets to the grocery store, and you even buy it off the shelf.
Yeah.
How is that all natural?
Yeah. They put embalming fluid in canned goods. That's how it's preserved.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
that
like,
lasts
that's
for 5 years in a can.
Right. What are we eating? What are we consuming? Sounds good, right? It sounds great to have the convenience of it all, but to what cost? And I will leave what I have to say. I'll leave it off at what cost is the convenience. I don't know, Orko and Rizzle, if you guys got anything else to say before we close it out.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's very important that people get educated. And I don't feel like the healthcare system or your school system or even your doctor when you're seeing them all the time, unless you have a really great doctor, I don't feel like they're going to be the ones to educate you. So it's something that you're going to have to take upon yourself, to educate yourself about what are you eating, what are you drinking, what are you feeling. And that doesn't mean go and WebMD yourself every time you get a symptom, right? But it does mean to take note of how you're feeling that day and how are you changing and how is your body changing.
Right.
And like you said, your body speaks to you, and make sure you're paying attention to that. I know for me, like I was just talking to you, ever since moving to Texas, which has a horrible healthcare system here, unless you got a lot of money to pay for private insurance, I don't have that private doctor anymore, or I don't have that normal doctor. So anything that goes wrong, I have to go to the ER. And what do they do at the ER? They look at your symptoms, they hand you an antibiotic, and they send you home. Nobody ever pays attention to you're getting sick every month, every week, every couple of months. Your symptoms are worse, blah, blah, blah. So take it upon yourself to find you somebody that you are comfortable with and take those checkups seriously. Because I think a lot of times we just won't go, or we don't go because there's nothing wrong, right? We're feeling great. So why do I need a checkup? But understand that there's just go and educate yourself. I think that's the biggest thing, because nobody's going to educate you out here. I don't think anybody's going to.
I agree with that. That's the most important thing, is to go get a checkup every 6 months, regardless of how you feel. Is because you never know what's going on in the inside of your body. So you want to get checked out when it's convenient, or at least 6 months. Every 6 months you go get a checkup and ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us today and just talking some real ass shit today about wake up, y'all. Like, wake up.
Yeah.
And always, let us know what we can do, of course, to support you on your journey. I'm very appreciative of you just coming on and telling us your story. We're going to get into the horoscopes now of today.